Thank you, Chelsea. I'm glad it's not Friday. Perhaps I'd like to see Friday. Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Paul, for that fabulous welcome, and to your mum as well. And I know 32 Acres very well, so thank you so much for what you've had to say. And thank you, everyone, for agreeing to move the program around a little bit to the Minister. Thank you. I know this is not protocol, but it's just the way things are. To the other members of Parliament that are here, thank you so much. Can I also say to Richard and Natalie, and you were great on the radio this morning, so a great hello to you. And to also Muriel, where are you? Relative, but also someone that we all look up to, and your advocacy over your lifetime for our children has just been absolutely remarkable, and so has SNAICC's leadership. Can I just say very briefly that in another life I was the Minister for Community Services in New South Wales, where we brought in the Aboriginal Child Placement Principle. It's kind of disappeared now. But understand absolutely just how important this issue is. We know that the key socioeconomic drivers underlying the trends that Richard spoke about are poverty, housing, and the issues around health, education, and family violence. But this report, as you've said, reaffirms what the urgency is, with over 20,000 children growing up in care, but also I'm glad to say some of the really successful things and what a number of state and territory governments are actually implementing, very much driven by Family Matters, and SNAICC is also very good to see. Can I just say that there are eight recommendations in the report, and number 6 in particular has great relevance to the federal Parliament, and we shouldn't just say that this is a state and territory issue, because it's not. The federal Parliament has a responsibility, as the report recommends, to set a framework for the way in which states and territories and to also put together a national strategy, and I think that's something that we all have enormous responsibility for, and I wanted to say that I've taken that on board very, very much. Everyone, this week is Anti-Poverty Week, and there is just so much relevance in this week to First Nations people. I've recently just come back from a trip through the Western Desert, and there is just so much wealth there, but there is so much poverty as well, and it's very hard to marry up the two. Can I just say an enormous thank you for the 4th report. It is salient reading, but it's critically important for those of us that are in the Parliament, and critically important, I think, for all Australians to understand that this tragedy is unfolding on our watch, and it is a tragedy. In most states and territories, we know that the number of children in care is increasing, and we know in some states and territories the number of children in care is almost entirely Aboriginal children, particularly in Northern Australia. And I've heard Muriel say this. It's an assumption that we just can't abide by. Aboriginal families want what other families want for their children. We want children to be safe. We want them to be with us. And when you have a look at the history of First Nations people, with the removal of the stolen generations, and the dreadful effects that just roll on, the intergenerational trauma is something that's absolutely important for us to understand. And the intergenerational trauma is so much a part of what's happening with our children today. So thank you very much, everyone. I'm sorry I do have to leave, but thank you so much for the work that you've done, and thank you for your indulgence in allowing me to speak first. All the best, everyone.